yesterday, while I was trying to sleep, we got hit with the Woj nuke 4-team trade in the NBA. Houston, Atlanta, Minnesota, and Denver all in that trade. The big pieces involved, Robert Covington, obviously, Clint Capela, some first-round picks involved, but just wanted to make sense of everything that went on. Welcome to the Amateur Hour Sports Podcast, where we post every single day. My name is Jacob. Just going to go over this trade. I didn't have a lot of time to process it last night because I was literally lying in bed when the Woj nuke plowed through my existence. And, well, here I am recording this morning. I'll post this later tonight. Talking about the trade, and here is the full trade going on Adrian Wojnarowski's Twitter. Houston received Robert Covington. Atlanta received Clint Capela and Nene. Minnesota received Malik Beasley, Juan Hernan-Gomez, and Evan Turner, along with Atlanta's first-round pick via the Brooklyn Nets. Denver received Gerald Green and Houston's first-round pick. So, a lot of moving pieces, a lot of big pieces involved. I think that, obviously, the headliners are Robert Covington and Clint Capela. Some big trades there. Houston will start. I'm just going to go through each team, what I think they got out of the trade. Houston got Robert Covington from this trade. We knew that they needed wing depth, and they got it. Robert Covington putting up, decent score, 13 points per game, shooting decently, 35% from three, 43 from the field. Nothing special, but this guy is a good defender. We know that. 1.7 steals per game. Much needed wing depth, much needed wing defense for the Houston Rockets. I think that was a good move. But the problem with Houston now is that, well, they traded away their center. And, I like what I'm seeing from Isaiah Hartenstein so far this season. I think that he's a decent backup, and he can give you serviceable minutes. But no starting center. So PJ Tucker's got to play minutes at the 5. And, I think that, well, a lot of teams are going to be kind of trying to look at the LA teams and look at their team and decide what they need in order to beat those teams. So Houston may decide they need wing depth, which they did need. But now, well, what happens when you come up against the Lakers and AD is going up against not Clint Capela, not even him, PJ Tucker at the 5. I see that being very problematic for the Houston success. If you just feed it in the post, like the Lakers can rotate 3 bigs, Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee, and Anthony Davis. So very problematic for Houston defending that. I don't really, they got to be active still. I can't really understand what they want to get out of this. I think Hartenstein can get more minutes, but I think they still need a center. I think that we can look at guys like maybe House, like Daniel House, who's playing decently. He's a forward, getting some numbers put up. I actually kind of like House. I like what I saw from him last year in the playoffs and what I've seen from him so far this season. Shooting 38% from 3, 43 from the field, about 11 points per game. I think that could be a piece to get a big, but I think also Eric Gordon could be one that you could look at to move, because Deshaun was talking to me about this last night, and it made a lot of sense what he was saying. He was saying that Eric Gordon could get moved to Philly in exchange for Al Horford to play at the 5. And at first, I didn't really like that, but the more I thought about it, the more it made sense, because, well, obviously Philly need a shooter, and I talked about that yesterday, how much they need a shooter. Everybody knows they need a goddamn shooter. Bring Eric Gordon in. Play on the wing. Can be a spot-up shooter, clearing the floor for Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. Can hit his shots. We know Eric Gordon, former three-point contest champion. We know he can shoot. Al Horford, surprisingly, has never played as a 4 ever in his career, and he's struggling a lot with the 76ers on a big contract because he's playing the 4. So if you go to Houston and play the 5, and even their 5 can now space the floor, well, we can unlock maybe a little bit more from James Harden and Russell Westbrook, because they're going to be because Clint Capela is an interior player only, but Horford can space the floor. He can get outside. He can hit his shots. He's a good enough three-point shooter for that Houston team. It's just a matter of if they want to take on Al Horford's contract. But I think that Houston should really be looking at a guy like Al Horford, because Philly definitely want to unload that guy. because he doesn't work with Joel Embiid and he doesn't really work as the 4. And Houston need a 5. And we know Al Horford can defend big players. They call Al Horford the Giannis stopper, the Giannis killer, for a reason. And I think that in the playoffs, if you come against a guy like AD, Al Horford can stop him to a degree. Obviously, you can't stop AD because he's so talented, but you can get some good output on defense from Al Horford. And even if they came against the Clippers, Al Horford could do a job on Montrezl Harrell or Zubac. So I think that this is a good move for the Houston Rockets so far, but it's half of what they need done. They still need to acquire a big to fit this system, and I think Al Horford is one that they could look at to make a push for this season. Moving on to the Atlanta Hawks. I like what they came up with in this trade. They got Clint Capela. They needed a 5. The Nene one, I'm not really going to look at. He hasn't even played this season. Just an extra in this one. But Clint Capela coming into the Hawks, I know they've been really bad this year. They've been quite horrific to say the least. But think about the starting 5 in the coming years. Trae Young, very young. Cam Reddish, rookie, who needs to get better, but I think he can get better. He's got a high ceiling. DeAndre Hunter, very high lottery pick. Lots of room for improvement. He can get a lot better. And John Collins as well at the 4 can get a lot better as well. These are all very young pieces. And now Clint Capela in that starting 5 with Jabari Parker coming off the bench. That is a nice core right there. Nice young core that you're going to have for a very long time. I think that Bruno Fernando, another rookie, is one that could excel into a backup big role. He hasn't shown quite those strides yet, but I think he can reach that level. And they're waiving Chandler Parsons, which is going to clear a lot of cap space. They got rid of Evan Turner, which cleared some cap space. I think that Atlanta are one that we can look at for next season as a possible threat. And I know we said that last year and at the start of this season with the players they had, but they're starting to realize they need some more veteran pieces to complement these young stars. But you almost have, if you didn't trade, you could have a decade with Young, Reddish, Hunter, and Collins as your core, which is huge. You could have at least 6, 7, 8 years with those guys. So that's an exciting team for the future. And I think that they made a good move here getting Clint Capela. I think that he will complement the young guys a lot who are going to just be on the perimeter. No need to be in the interior. They're all perimeter players. So definitely a good move by the Atlanta Hawks here. They kept on to their first round pick as well. We know it's going to be a top-heavy draft coming to this season. So I think Atlanta made good business from this trade, securing Clint Capela. Not for this season, but for next season. I think they're looking a lot better than they did this season. Next, Minnesota. It's kind of unfortunate. They've lost 12 in a row. They're dealing with injuries to Cat. But they are committing to the tank at this point. They have committed to getting a lottery pick. They're second bottom in the Western Conference. Like I said, they've lost 12 games in a row. They acquired, the Malik Beasley one I kind of like because he has the potential to be a decent bench player. At only 23 years old, he's regressed this year from last year, but I think he can get back to that level where he's putting up 11-plus points per game. That's a decent bench player for the future. Evan Turner, the bust, $18 million expiring contract. I just think he was a throw-in. They're going to clear up that cap space end of the season and make some moves, but not going to do anything for them this year. And Juan Hernan Gomez, not great, but he can come off the bench, be a presence, gold medalist at the World Cup in the summer, by the way, Juan Hernan Gomez. But nothing special from an NBA standpoint. But they did manage to secure a first-round pick in getting rid of Robert Covington, which I didn't think they'd be able to do, but they did. They got the Brooklyn Nets pick. That was Atlanta Hawks traded via the Brooklyn Nets. It's going to be a mid-tier pick, not great, but you can add some depth with that pick. I think that it's going to be, they can get something decent out of that if they draft well. So I think that Minnesota managed to get a decent return, but it's just sad that they're committing to the tank based on how promising they were at the start of the season. I think that, I feel for Cat, and I think Andrew Wiggins needs to get traded. I think that realistically, if you really want to bring in D'Angelo Russell, you manage to secure your pick. You can trade that pick. You can maybe trade Wiggins and look at a guy like D'Angelo Russell. I think that's possible. I'm going to touch more on that later in the week on the podcast. I'm going to have an episode dedicated to D'Angelo Russell. I'll talk more about that, but I think Andrew Wiggins needs a move, needs more accountability from where he goes. So I think that is somewhere where he can actually thrive. Imagine Golden State with, Splash Brothers, Andrew Wiggins at the 3, Draymond Green at the 4. You draft a 5, maybe an exciting team. They can get that what's his name, Wiseman, a very exciting pick, and it's likely that they can get in a spot where they can land a guy like that. More on that later in the week, though. Now on to the Nuggets. They did sacrifice some bench by trading Malik Beasley and Hernan Gomes, but they can get something out of this. And they also managed to secure Houston's first-round pick in this trade, which they could flip for more pieces because they're not done. They're not done by any stretch of the imagination. By the trade deadline is Thursday. Expect Denver to be very active in that to secure more bench pieces because Denver have been great this year, and I'm sure that they have some plans in motion. Some free agents I think that could be beneficial in this. I think that, the Rockets need a center, and I really don't see why you wouldn't go for a guy like Kenneth Faried. Bring back Kenneth Faried. He's a free agent. You don't need to pay him a lot, and just to secure some of that depth at center in case you can't rely on Hardenstein, because they literally only have him right now. They're, like PJ Tucker, there's jokes going around Twitter like PJ Tucker's gonna have to play like 48 minutes at center. Obviously not, but PJ Tucker's gonna be the starting center, and he's 6'5", and like I said, AD's gonna just go to town on that guy. So I don't see why Kenneth Faried isn't signed by any team at this point. And if you need a center, I think that Kenneth Faried is the way to go. And if you need some wing depth, like maybe the Nuggets will need, Iman Shumpert's a free agent, and he's another one where I don't really understand why he's still a free agent. I think that he can offer something in the NBA, and if you can get him cheap and you need that kind of guy on the wing, why not? Iman Shumpert wasn't bad last year for the Houston Rockets, so maybe you can look at Denver into acquiring a guy like the Shump God. So there are options for these teams to take. There are free agent potential. There are trade potential. I think overall from this 4-team trade, all 4 teams are going to leave this kind of happy. They're going to be pretty happy about this, generally content with what they received. I think that the Hawks and the Rockets did some great business here. But the T-Wolves, I'm not sure about what the direction they want to go in, but still, Malik Beasley isn't that bad, and they got a first that they can work on getting D'Angelo Russell with, because I think D'Angelo Russell's a perfect fit for that team. I really want that trade to happen, to see deloading in Minnesota. Nuggets got some decent pieces, but you gotta like what the Hawks are doing. I think that they're a smart organization based on what I've seen in the past couple years. We'll see how that all pans out, but lots of moves to be made by Thursday's deadline. I'm hoping to have a D'Angelo Russell episode out tomorrow, like I was saying earlier in the episode, but the deadline's creeping up. I'm not sure if I can be able to put that out, but we'll see. Regardless, thank you for listening to the Amateur Sports Podcast. If you're still here, you can let me know your thoughts on this trade through Twitter or Instagram at AmateurPDC. You can comment on the YouTube video at Amateur Sports. In the meantime, follow on Spotify, follow on Apple Podcast, and as usual, we post every single day. So keep coming back for that daily content. You can use the links in the description to listen any way you want, and we will see you again tomorrow.